Can't get enough of it. But you yourself didn't sit here and watch it. Do you never watch yourself?
I've seen that twice. I've seen
okay.
the first episode twice. I watched number 10 today for the first time because we were all doing, myself and Luke Norris and Jack Farthing and Heather Reid were doing, and Eleanor, were doing commentary for the DVD, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So that was the first time watching that. I'll watch it when it comes out this year.
Okay.
I'm generally not good. I don't know why. I'm just not. I hate looking at myself. Get that off.
Yeah. No, let's keep it on. Let's keep it on. So you gather mates around to watch it around yours, or no?
I can't think of anything worse.
Really?
Than that. No, I'd be watching it on my own.
Your own.
Yeah,
Small dark room.
I'm usually not good at watching it when it comes out because I know other people are watching it at the same time, and the cringe factor is too much.
Right.
I can't deal with it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Eleanor, I mean, 18 months ago, you were here for the premiere of the first series.
Yeah.
And did a Q&A here. Is it a completely different experience? Now you know it's a massive hit and a huge cultural phenomenon to be talking about it this time around.
Yeah, it is. It's really exciting. There's lots of people taking pictures this time. There weren't last time. No one knew what it was. So so it's great. It's great to be here. It's great that this series is still so popular. It's been so long since the first series was on. So it's an honour really.
And Damien, in terms of the task of doing the second series after the first series, when you were planning the second series, were you aware that it was becoming a huge phenomenon, a huge hit? So was the pressure there, or were you not kind of thinking about that element? Are you just kind of working out what to do for series 2?
We were thinking about that.
Okay.
I mean, the book was there, so we had a route map. But I think it's definitely true to say that when we first started talking about series 2, was as series 1 was going out, and as series 1...
I mean, we had some... We looked at what, if in case we had a second series. Well, obviously, we had to do some planning because, we couldn't just suddenly start halfway through series 1 going out and thinking, I quickly got to get these scripts out. Right. So I had an idea that just in case, but that's the norm, really. You have to plan just in case, but we had no expectation at all.
Right.
But I think it's true to say that as it went on and as the kind of development of Series 2, we were certainly kind of buoyed up by the interest there was in the first series. And it made us raise our game, definitely.
Because it does feel bigger and more epic, and somehow to me, and everything about it feels bigger. Is that fair? Is that a fair reflection of what you were going for?
I mean, I think the stories go to more epic and darker places, really. I think, I suppose we felt kind of emboldened to not be afraid to kind of deal with some of those darker stories and the kind of epic sweep of it. But we still were very fortunate with we got a lot of shooting done in Cornwall, and it's still we were lucky. We only got swept off a cliff twice, I think, with the weather. So we were very fortunate. I think it looks amazing, and you wouldn't guess that it was more autumnal in feel just from those shots, but it does become more autumnal in feel later on.
Does it get stormier and darker as the series goes on?
Yes, I think that's true to say.
What are the challenges of filming amid storms?
Well, literally, the set gets blown away.
Right.
That is true, isn't it? I think the first 2 days of shooting, the wheel leisure got blown away.
I just think you can't hear the other actor. You're this close and you can't hear what they're saying. Yeah. So what do? Do you raise the levels so you're shouting at the person that close, or do you just concede and go, we'll fix it in the studio? Yeah. Which is kind of a sad thing to do, because you lose that emotion, so you have to try and find that the other person. It's the weirdest thing, and it's usually quite an emotional scene if we take it to the beach or to the side of a cliff, so that's weird. Yeah. But you have to do it, and you have to get it right. I mean, we don't have another day usually to go back there. I mean, time is money, all that kind of things. That's odd.
And there was that scene on the cliff where we were literally squeezing each other's hands to say when to speak because we couldn't hear each other.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was ridiculous.
And then you still have to try and keep that emotion and not make it look like it's some crappy panto or whatever.
It's never going to like that.
No, it's not going to work.
No. Debbie, in terms of this, where you're getting to in the stories, adapting them from the original books, were you sticking quite closely at this point in this series to the plot lines and how the characters
I think
developed?
generally yes, we have, but we have made changes, and there's all kinds of reasons why you make changes, and some of them are actually logistical. Some of them are to do with the fact that we haven't got the money to have all the cast that we want to. We haven't got a cast of thousands, so sometimes we have to make other characters work harder than they would do in the books by actually giving them a role that they may not necessarily have in the books. And sometimes you change things because, for instance, a good example is there's an incident that's set at Christmas, but it costs a fortune to have snow everywhere, and we're filming at harvest time, so we change a Christmas festival into a harvest festival. It's things like that, you know, there's all kinds of reasons why you do change. And I think actually I'm really glad we changed it to the Harvest Festival, because it really looks fantastic. Yeah.
And what about in terms of modernising attitudes? Do you do any of that? Because there was talk at the weekend of a particular scene, we don't necessarily want to spoil it, but a controversial scene that was in the books.
I'm always interested in this. I think the scene that I think you're referring to, I just find this very, very interesting. I don't know, have you read the books?
No.
So I think it's fair to say that, you know, fans of the books are pretty. There's a big debate goes on about, you know, how that scene should be interpreted, but from our point of view, obviously we have to make a decision one way or the other. We can't kind of let people make it up as they go along. We're really fortunate because we have Andrew Graham, who is the son of Winston Graham. Who obviously during his father's lifetime had the opportunity to talk to him about his work. And so we consult him all the time about things, but we did consult him about this specific incident. And he actually, well, I can read it to you actually. He gave a statement. He can't be here with us tonight, otherwise he would have said it himself. But basically what his
I didn't know you were going to read the statement, by the way.
Okay, so basically he says, so this is in the incident, which I'm sure everybody is referring to here.
Ross makes a sandwich.
Yes, Ross makes a sandwich, yes.
Very controversial.
He says, in the novel Warlegan, the point of departure for the relevant scene is indeed consistent with the potential for rape. But what then actually happens is not described, but is left entirely to one's imagination. The only way to judge what my father intended is to read the novels as a whole. Doing so, it becomes clear from earlier scenes, as well as from Elizabeth's immediate reactions and later mixed emotions, that what finally happened was consensual sex born of long-term love and longing. So so we worked, you know, I worked with him before I actually set off writing the script. So he basically, you know, we can't go we haven't got Winston Graham to ask what his intention was. We only have what his father what his son said, and that was his statement. So that is this is how we, and of course you haven't seen the scene yet, nobody's seen it, so it's not quite as straightforward as that makes it sound. I think that you will find that there is a lot of kind of ambiguity about the scene nonetheless, but I think that is the one you're referring to.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. I mean, in terms of the cat, he is a deeply flawed, complicated hero, isn't he? He's not just a kind of classic, a kind of one-dimensional romantic hero. I mean, in terms of playing him, there's all kinds of things about him that are a bit dodgy, aren't there?
Well, that's what makes him fun,
right?
Isn't it? I mean, that's why he feels like a real man to me, and not just this, you know, staple, iconic figure. You know, this Robin Hood kind of guy. You know, he feels real. He is flawed. He makes fundamental, terrible mistakes, and doesn't even know how to apologise for them properly. And until he sees that Demels is upset, he's going, "Oh crap! I got to do something about this. Maybe I did. Maybe I mucked up. I mean, I don't know, but I do it all the time. I mean, but he does learn, and I think he accepts that in himself, you know, and you know, a lot of time has passed, and you can see him getting better with these things, better with Demels, but fundamentally, I mean, he's a dude who mucks up and makes mistakes. I mean, who wants him to be benevolent all the time? You know,
I don't think we've ever discussed. We've never called him a hero. We've
we
never
haven't.
actually used that word with regards to him. We've always said he was flawed, and that there's loads of things that actually you want to hit him for.
Of course, but that's I think that's why we love him. You know, if he was just a hero, if he was, why would we? You know, it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't feel real, and it wouldn't be Ross. Yeah.
And for you, Alan, I mean, Demels must be constantly infuriated. I mean, not only does he go up and leave her in bed while he goes wood chopping,
without bringing a cappuccino up.
Right. He's constantly kind of just not quite. I feel, I don't know, not quite paying enough attention. Maybe is that fair?
Yeah, but I think that's what real marriage is, you know. And I think that is why people love them, is that they have a very realistic relationship. And she tells him when he's being an idiot. So you know.
I mean, would she love the Francis Poldark, you know, the guy who's overly attentive possibly, or would do anything for her, and is more tuned in, more engaged? I don't know, but you know, I think most people here probably would.
I think the key thing with it, and again the thing that we always kept in mind, you know, all of us as we kind of collaborate on this together. Again, one of the things that Andrew Graham said to me is that his father had said that with the sweep of the books, 12 books, he said he wasn't writing about a perfect marriage, but he was writing about a real marriage. A marriage that endured through thick and thin, not a marriage that was, you know, an idealized view of marriage, but which actually, you know, did justice to how difficult it is to sustain a marriage over, you know, 20, 30, 40 years. And that, I think, we've always kept in mind, that it's not always pretty, but it's actually real.
And in terms of, in the book, the female characters, Demelza and Elizabeth, feel very three-dimensional and kind of not just taking their husband's word for what they should do, etc. Is that in the book? Is that there? Is that, or have you slightly updated that?
I think that what we all wanted to create in the first series. Demelza's a very, you know, she's a very feisty, independent character, and that was what we depicted that, and Eleanor depicted it wonderfully in the first series. And I think it's true to say in books 3 and 4, she probably recedes a little in terms of the feistiness, the kind of proactiveness of her character, and becomes perhaps a little more of a kind of housewife, really. And we did feel that maybe that was a bit of a shame, and that it was, if there were ever any opportunities to make her more active and more involved in the stories, I think we have taken those opportunities, so...
Thank you, Debbie.
Yeah. Because she does make a good pie, but there is more to it than that.
You don't need to see the pie making.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we take that for granted.
We've met 3 great new characters. The prospective MP is fantastically entertaining prospective wife, presumably your wife. Yeah.
Yes.
And John Nettle's character. Oh, they're all are they as they are in the book pretty much, or did you kind of?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, perhaps Unwin, the prospective MP, isn't quite so foolish, perhaps, in the book. He's not quite as much fun as Hugh Skinner has made him. Has done brilliantly, and then wait for episode 2. It's great. Yes. Yes.
And Damien, in terms of casting those new characters, it's hard. I guess it's a kind of challenge to bring new characters into such a well-established, very, very popular group, isn't it? And I mean, they all seem immediately perfect. We kind of feel we know what those characters are like. Is it hard finding the right people for those roles?
I think it is. I mean, Caroline is a really iconic character in the Poldark saga. I think she's many people's favourite character beyond the kind of core of it. But I mean, there's some people who think Caroline is their kind of particular favourite, and she is. We're very mindful, having put the first series together. We knew that when you've got people like Aidan, Eleanor, all that core cast, for this young heiress to come in, she has to come in with such power and make such a splash, and that's hard because you've got such great people there to begin with, and it was a bit like casting Scarlett O'Hara, and Caroline has a slightly Scarlett O'Hara-ish quality perhaps, and we looked and looked and looked and looked, and then met Gabriella and offered it to her, and then discovered 2 days later that she was pregnant, and then persuaded ourselves that we could work around her pregnancy, which we did. Gabriella was amazing at just very long-sufferingly coping with our mad schedule and her growing bump.
A very well disguised bump, actually.
But that was. I mean, it's that thing. I think as soon as you find the right person, you're not scared. But until you found them, it is scary. We've just been. We're about to start shooting Series 3, and we had the read-through last week, and that's got some other really important characters coming, and we were kind of on tenterhooks for months, and we talked about it, who are they going to be, and we were all, I think, very, very relieved.
Happy.
Yeah.
And you've also brought new directors in this series as well. Is it how do you go about finding the right directors for it? Is there, do they have to have done stuff involving huge landscapes and huge epic scenes like that, or is it all about the person themselves?
I think there's no. I mean, so far, the Poldark directors, that you're definitely wanting people who can do big, epic vistas, but also very intimate, nuanced, characterful things, and Will and Charles and Richard this year have completely nailed that, as I think we did in the first series. It's I hope it's fun for directors, because it's such a big world, and you've got to somehow on a TV schedule try and convey the scale of it, but also, you know, the heart of it are characters, these actors in very emotionally truthful scenes, and it's getting those two things together.
Certainly challenging for them, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have like a Bible of the show where you kind of have certain things that you do or don't want them to do? Do you have one of those?
No, not really. We don't, do we? I don't think so.
No, we talk about Planet Poldark as a kind of, you know, as a thing. There are, I mean, the scripts are so clear, and it sorts itself out.
I mean, we
easily.
we work very closely with the directors right up to the day of, you know, handing over to them shooting, and, you know, I go through each script, literally a page turn, you know, which takes days sometimes, and then off they go to shoot, and that's, you know, and away they go, and I think that is the way to do it.
Eleanor, what's the atmosphere like on set? Because you talked about in an interview I read at the weekend how much fun you had, particularly in the love scenes. You said you have to amuse yourself. She did.
She said it was fun.
See?
Clearly she was joking.
Well, let's find out.
I was explaining how it's like a kind of hilarious dance routine.
Yeah.
In which we have a conversation saying, Aidan, where are you going to put your hand? Like,
Yeah.
You can't put it there. No, because...
Try the other hand. What about now?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay, let's go with that.
Saying, no,
Can we get a mark for that
I
hand?
don't want the camera there because I don't want him to see that side of me. So, it's really unglamorous, but it's very funny. Yeah, but I think we just have a laugh, don't we?
We just get on with it.
Yeah. There's always an array.
It's like the real thing. It's really awkward.
Yeah.
What's more fun, a love scene with Demels or a fight scene with George?
Oh, wow. What's more fun?
Yeah, for you.
Be careful, Aidan.
I think I'd take George on this one.
Yeah.
I think so,
I'm glad
yeah.
you said that. My parents are in the audience.
And we saw a glimpse, obviously there's brilliant confrontation scenes between the two of you.
Yeah,
George.
yeah.
And we saw from the bit at the end, the clips, that there's some physical action as well.
It gets, we come to, there's a climax with one of our fights. I mean, there's a head in a fireplace at one point.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, we go there.
Wow. And that must be great fun, to write as well.
It's great. I mean, you know, a lot of that is in the books. But I always look forward to a Ross and George confrontation, to be honest, because you just really want George to get what's coming to him. Yeah. I mean, I love writing for George because he's, you know, he is evil, but actually I have to kind of believe in his humanity as well, and I do. I kind of understand George and love him, but they are some of my favourite scenes, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's important because on one level it could end up being very melodramatic, couldn't it? One dimension. You know, there's a classic love triangle, there's a classic villain, but getting the subtleties in.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's why the character of George is really important, because you don't want him to just be purely a villain. You don't want him to be actually irredeemable. At every point, we're looking for the moment where, you know, if Ross just threw him a crumb, just the slightest, oh, go on then, let's be mates, things could be different, but he just can't bring himself to.
No. And there's an interesting kind of political aspect to it, I guess as well. That I was reading that the novels, actually, there is a fairly kind of socialistic vibe going on there that I guess you brought out as well in now.
I think
that's there, wasn't it?
Oh, it's definitely there. It's absolutely definitely. It is really the kind of confrontation between, you know, George, who is the kind of face of greed, actually, and acquisitiveness, and the truth is George and Ross could never be friends, really, because actually their values are so opposed that even if Ross did shake his hand, they would never ever be friends. It's not simply because there's just this ongoing rivalry between them. It's that fundamentally what Ross believes in is the very opposite to what George believes in, and so the two would never meet.
Do you ever get a moment if you're about to start filming series 3, like next week, aren't you? And you must have read most of the scripts by now. Do you ever get moments when you're reading what's going to happen to your characters? You think, oh my God, That's kind of, I'm not expecting that, or I'm not quite sure if they do that.
Definitely, and I read the books to see what's happening, because sometimes I get too excited and can't wait for the scripts. But yeah, it's often shocking, and I often turn around to you and go, "What? No." Yeah, it's going to be.
Sometimes I read the script, but I just don't take it all in because I'm stupid. So when I read it again at the read-through, and I go, "Oh my God, this is happening! This is brilliant!" And they're exciting moments for me. And then third time around, I can also get that sometimes too.
Wow.
From the same script. Living here, mate.
Wow.
It's pretty confusing at the moment, though, because having just had the read-through for Series 3, and yet, Series 2 hasn't actually gone out yet. And sometimes, so I've been kind of doing rewrites leading up to the read-through for Series 3. I'm thinking, not just what episode are we in here, but what series are we in? Where did that be? Because so it can, and maybe thinking even further ahead, thinking, where do we go from here, possibly?
And because you're writing the whole thing, we should say, you write every single episode yourself. You started out, Series 1 was supposed to be 6, you went to 8. This is 10 episodes now. Is it going to be 50 episodes by the time we get
God, I think I'd collapse. I actually just spent the weekend lying in bed because I finished. We have 9 episodes, actually, in Series 3. But we're actually not doing as many books. We're doing 1.5 books this time, because the books are much fatter, and we didn't want to actually just skimp on the on the storytelling, really. So, yes, it's 9 episodes, but less books.
I'm going to throw it open to the audience a minute. Before we do, I just want to mention the music. I was speaking to.
Yes.
I was looking that first scene where we're kind of that sweeping, massive helicopter shot, wherever it was,
great, isn't it?
with the incredibly sweeping music and Dudley's music. It's fantastic, and all these elements for me kind of make it feel like a premium TV drama in this stage. Damien, are you kind of deliberately trying to keep up with all the other great, we're in a period, aren't we, where you've got Netflix and Amazon, all these things. This feels like it's at that level, partly because of the music and the cinematography and all of that. Is it all key to helping it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Anne Dudley, who's here somewhere, in all our conversations, we talk about the music a lot. We've never asked that question. It's just about, what does Poldark need? What can Anne afford to do on the music budget, which is not ever as big as I think she would like. And it really is about serving Winston Graham's story, Debbie Horsfield's scripts, and we don't really ever talk about that. We just talk about what the series needs.
Hi, I am interested in that realm. I like lenses, and I like to see what the director has in mind and how he develops shots, and I love all the gear, I love the lighting stuff, and I want to find out which trace does what, and I'm just interested in that, not just from my aspect, but I'm just keen on it. But then I work with the directors and I see how much work they have to do. It's not pretty. I mean, they're under crazy time constraints, usually budgetary things, and they need to compromise a lot, Every director, not just in TV, but feature film too, it doesn't really matter about budgets. There's time things, there's actors pull out, you just got to compromise a lot. So your idea gets changed and warped, and then 6 months later or a year later, your name comes up and people, I might find that difficult. The compromise would be hard, but that's what really great directors do. I don't know if I could do it that well. I think I'd like to direct theatre. I'm more of a control freak. The final image is the thing that I'd like. I wouldn't want anyone messing with it, So, I'm a geek for the tech, but I don't know if I could hand over the power. But yeah, cheers.
I work with a voice coach, as does everyone in the show who does a Cornish accent, and she's fabulous at both taking on your character and where your character sits in society. So for me, in Series 1, I wanted the accent to be really strong, and then I've kind of toned it down throughout the series. So yeah, I would say all praise goes to her for that, really.
It's just kind of what we do. I mean, I can never remember a job where that hasn't happened, but it is quite strange where we'll be having a conversation in the kitchen and I'll walk out the back door of the kitchen and it's a second in the time we watch it as an audience, but when I walk out, it could be 4 months later, that's so strange, and that happens all the time. You just get back into it quickly, you read over the scene, and when you've done the scene as well, you can get back in immediately. I've never imagined it. I don't think it's ever been a problem. And we know the scripts and the stories of the characters so well. I guess we just adapt. It's just something actors do. But yeah, it is. It is weird. Like, it's strange.
And it's also the norm, isn't it, that we shoot completely out of sequence as well.
Yeah,
so you might be shooting your last scene in the whole series first up.
Yeah.
I mean, that does occasionally happen.
Yeah, but it's always been that way, and it's I don't know a TV show or film that shoots differently. Like Ken Loach, for instance, he will shoot in order. He's the only director that I can think of offhand that does. But it just, that's what we do. It's the way it works. But yeah, it is absurd.
There are various things which are challenges. It can be anything from deciding which characters to jettison because we just don't have the time in the story to do justice to them. Sometimes it's choosing a character which has to carry the role of more than, some of the smaller characters, you have to make them, it's what I was saying before, you have to make them work a little bit harder than they do in the book. We don't have the money to have, maybe 30 or 40 of the sort of subsidiary characters which the books have. So you have to make some of the existing characters take on the roles of, as we've done, for instance, you will see we've given Ray Penvennon a role which he doesn't necessarily have in the books, just because we can't afford to have all of the other characters that would play those parts. And I suppose the other thing is just the internal thought processes, really, of the characters. Often the story is told through, internal monologue, and you have to find a way, and so often the actual narrative is told through that, particularly, say, with Ross or with Demelza. And so, obviously, you have the choice of having them, standing on a cliff and thinking aloud for 5 minutes, which wouldn't be particularly dramatic, or you have to find somebody who realistically might be their confidant that they could express those thoughts to. So I think that's one of the most challenging things, because the great thing about the books is that they unwind at a more leisurely pace sometimes, and obviously television demands that the pace is pretty pretty relentless sometimes. So it's really finding those characters that our main characters can speak to and express themselves to in a way that doesn't compromise them as characters, and I think that's probably been the most challenging thing.
That may have been my suggestion, actually. I don't remember it. Oh God, I don't know the truth behind that. I don't know if Debbie wrote that in or not.
Do you mean in the second series?
Yeah.
Topless Mining.
Yeah. Do you mean the first one?
second series or the first?
The second one, where
the mining.
Yeah, the mining. Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. All the miners. It's pretty hot underground. It's really realistic.
It's real hot.
It really is. Yeah.
I don't know. You just oil yourself up and get over it.
Intermittent signal on phones is always a challenge.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure of the dates, but I know we're not getting too far into autumn. So, I mean, just having weather that we can hear the other actors and not be blown away. I know we've covered that already. It sounds quite dull, but to get some of the weather that we got maybe the first year would be quite nice again, because that was just so glorious. And just seeing the place again, I mean, I miss it, and you build a relationship with it so quickly, because it is quite small, and we know our little places, and it grows on you an awful lot, and it's so stunning and lovely. So I just can't wait to get down there again. I miss it.
I'm looking forward to having fish and chips.
Yeah. I mean, nothing too rude, but you do get, people do give you email, 2 phone numbers. If I'm abroad, it might be this number. But it's like, there's a high probability that I won't be calling you, and you kind of think, what about all these phone numbers? And then it'll certainly smell of perfume as well, and different things like that. But nothing rude. I mean, I've never received anything like, naughty or rude like that, but just a bit cheeky like that. Yeah. What about you?
No, nothing naughty or rude. I just get
Why
really
not?
nice.
What's going on?
Maybe I should take my shirt off and sign. I don't know. I get really nice letters and some nice presents. I get a lot of letters for him saying, just give this to Aidan when he next sees you. And people ask me, like, if I bump into people, they're always like, where's Aidan? I'm like, oh, I just tied him up outside. Yeah. It's obscene. I think people don't realise that we are two different people.
Wow.
But we're not married.
We're not married.
Yeah.
We don't go to the supermarket on a horse.
Well, we do sometimes.
How do I prepare? Well, I was this time around it was just it's just physically. I mean, I've taken the summer off. I haven't worked. Last year I did maybe 3 or 4 jobs or something, and I came in a bit tired, maybe underprepared, and that was I was a bit burnt out. I didn't think I would be, and I was a bit surprised. And it took me a while to kind of get back on track again. That probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. And this year I feel well rested up. I mean, I've taken like 3 or 4 months off, and I've travelled. I've seen friends. I was in Dublin last week with a bunch of our mates from Fairhouse, sailing down the River Shannon on James Cannon's Stag Night. You know, I hadn't seen these guys in 15 years. You know, and I got to do things like that just normal good things. So now it's just back into training to make sure I fit the costumes and stuff like that, and that I look like Ross again. So I'm getting back into that, reading the scripts, just hearing the voice, just going through the scripts and getting my head around them. So, you know, just makes it easier when you finish work on a Tuesday and you go home and you look at your lines that you're probably already on them a little bit. You're really familiar with it. So all that's happening. But no, the early, all the finding the voice and, you know, finding the character and just all of those kind of things would have happened maybe first time around. You know, that was me really kind of fossicking to figure this guy out. I mean, it's a nice place to come back in as an actor to walk into series 3, having shot, you know, what, like 19 episodes or something, whatever we've done. How many have you done so far?
18.
18, yeah, knew that. Yeah. So yeah. Sounds cringy because it's nothing to do with method or anything like that. You know, it's not like staying in character and having to shake this guy off before I go home or anything like that. But you know, it is a fact that I'm probably Ross Poldark more than I'm Aidan Turner in those 6 or 7 months. I mean, by definition of how many hours I spend on set in his clothes, and usually, you know, when I'm not on set, I'm learning the lines for the next day, or maybe there's a speech in 2 or 3 days, or maybe you're rehearsing something. So, I mean, I'm probably him more than me during the day, so there is something. Sometimes you can, I mean, you can have a few days where you're probably doing very emotional scenes, and you might go home and you might be just a bit weird with somebody or whatever, and then they've noticed a shift, and just a circumstance, you might tell them you've been doing these scenes. They go, I knew there was something up with you. You've been a bit, you know, that's happened quite a bit and happens with a lot of actors, and it's not being that precious, you know, I'm an actor, I'm method, it's all about, it's just, it does hang around you, you know, it's bound to. But like, I guess just when you do a show or something, when it doesn't quite hit the mark, or you notice the difference then, you know, there isn't as many emails, the phone isn't jumping up, you're not getting text messages from old friends, there's just a subtle difference. You know, you're not getting texts from my dad going, oh, you're in the papers today, or, you know, just things aren't moving at the same pace. I could tell pretty early on, maybe by episode 3, that something was just slightly different about this. We had just made a connection with people, and people were digging our show. I mean, you could just feel it, I suppose. I don't know.
I was still hiding behind the sofa at episode 3. I was terrified. I don't know. I think it was just really nice to hear that the public really liked what they were seeing, and
but it did feel different though, didn't it? Like it did feel like that. It did feel like it really kind of.
Yeah.
Well, it was more than just because it was getting on the front page of the papers as well, wasn't it? That's
all that.
Yeah, I think that was the thing that did it. It was when politicians' heads started being superimposed onto Ross's body that we suddenly began to realise that maybe something was, you know, had caught the imagination. Yeah.
Well, that's a really good question without giving too much away, but you're the one who read the statement, Debbie. So I think there's a massive moment still between Ross and Elizabeth that we have to contend with, and I think that's incredibly trying for Demelza. Also, we start the series having they've still only just lost their child. So it's important that you pick up sensitively from where you left off, and Ross is being tried, so there's a lot for her to deal with, but I think the main thing is real life marriage and this other woman that just won't go away. So yeah, I'd say that was the hardest thing.
I don't know. I mean, look, I think people watch TV in a bunch of different ways these days. You know, you watch Victoria, then you catch us on iPlayer, you do vice versa. I mean, it's just a different way of doing it now. I don't think it means what it used to mean a few years ago.
I agree.
You know?
I think it's good. It makes a good story in the papers that
that were pitched against each other, but it really doesn't feel like that at all. We met the guys. We met
Jenna
Jenna and Tom in LA. Thanks, babes.
Very good team.
A few weeks ago doing press, and they're lovely and they're great, and we were talking about that, like what happens if you do go head to head, and we just kind of figured that like it doesn't matter. People who want to watch your show will watch your show. You know, that's kind of the way it is these days. You know, just catch up television, and that's the way it works. So yeah.
I don't know. I'm fiercely competitive, and I love Victoria. There was nothing difficult about this.
But that was quite early on in our shoot as well, wasn't it? Like that's the first time as actors that we kissed, wasn't it? not that that would be awkward or weird. Have I just started digging a hole? Yes. That's what happens when I can't see you in my peripheral vision. I say stupid things. I honestly, difficult.
One way of making a headline.
Oh, mate, I know, right? Shit. Sorry about that. I don't know. Difficult is a funny word. I mean, I don't find anything difficult or challenging necessarily. Oh, apart from that scene, I'm really bad at recalling things like that. I mean, obviously the scene that we shot, that we already spoke of.
The singing scene made me cry. Like, that was terrifying.
But that was your first. That was like your first day.
First day,
and it was.
It was
madness.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous scheduling.
No,
because
we
that
should
was
have better
such
answers
an
for you.
important scene.
Can't remember. I do remember that scene being quite tough, but I can't think of anything else.
Everything around the blue dress sequence was. I mean, we talked and talked and talked. It was so fiddly, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we went into, because it's such an iconic scene. Actually, I think we plotted out every single moment of it. Actually, and it was one that we kind of rehearsed quite a bit as well, and we had endless discussions about what the dress should be like,
what it should sound
how it should
sound.
sound.
Into but can't get out.
Yeah, that you know, and how that was possible, and then we discovered to our horror that actually there were no dresses that unfastened down the back in the 18th century, that it was down the front, and we had to beg the costume designer to design us something that would undo down the back. So
and she really didn't want to, understandably, because it's not historically accurate.
Yeah.
Did people pick up on that as a matter of interest?
Somebody did, actually. There was one person who said, you know, the kind of, does the BBC not realise that? Because, you know, obviously, of course we did.
Do people care about those kind of things?
Yeah, I think so. So, I mean, as you know, Mariana, our costume designer, cared passionately about it, because it kind of looks like she doesn't know her job. And that was when she and I had some robust discussions about it, because I said, I absolutely, totally get that it's not historically accurate, but sometimes
would not have got together.
Sometimes story has to trump accuracy, and she absolutely, she did the business for us in the end, as you guys did.
Yeah, true.